Hey, happy Monday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's time for FCA Coach's Corner. Billy Graham said it best when he said one coach can impact more young people in 1 year than most people can in their entire lifetime. At Fellowship of Christian Athletes, we believe that the two most powerful, influential words on any campus, playground, school, field are coach said. And at Mars Hill University, I can publicly confess that coach said means something so special with that college football team, because we have Coach Kevin Barnette in the house tonight, and he was one of my coaches in college, and the impact that he made on my life is everlasting, and I can't thank him enough for coming on here. Coach Barnette, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be aboard, and especially just to sit down and talk with you. I have a lot of respect for you, and I appreciate what God has done in your life.
Oh, the feeling's mutual, Coach. And we'll start off like this. Introduce us to your family. I want you to brag and talk about your family for a little bit, Coach.
Okay. My wife, her name is Reese Barnette. We've been married for 19 years, and we go a long way back. God has just simply blessed me with, I've outpunted my coverage. Let me just tell you that. She does so many things that I can't do. And she's always supporting me. And, she loves athletics. She loves God even more than that. And those are the really the two top things in my life in reference to God and athletics, and having her as my helpmate is tremendous. My oldest son is Elisha. He is he's 19, and he went through some things at a younger age. He had seizures when he was younger, and just really had a difficult time. But God has really had his hand on him, and he grew through all of that. And he's a freshman at Mars Hill University. He's on the basketball team, and he's doing great academically, and he's really turned into a fine young man. Nehemiah is their middle son. He is about to turn 18, and he's a middle son, and he's very much like me in a lot of ways. Very competitive, and he likes to play a lot of different sports. This fall, he's played basketball and he's played soccer. He's been all conference in both of those. He's played football for the first time again since he was in middle school. And he's probably going to run track when track comes around. Given the idea of what's going on with this pandemic is pretty amazing. And he's done well academically. And I prayerfully, he's going to choose to go to Mars Hill. He's already accepted there. And he's a real good soccer player. I think he's going to end up on the soccer team. My youngest child is Anna. She's in the middle school, 8th grader. And she knows absolutely everything.
Nah.
She is a mess. And well, she keeps us all straight. She plays a lot of sports, and she really loves soccer, and she's really getting into volleyball and really likes basketball as well. Really strong academically, and all three of my kids are saved, and that's the huge blessing in itself. And just continue to encourage them to be leaders and the audience that they have, and they seem to be taking that mantle, and I'm real proud of them to that extent.
Yeah, what a beautiful family, and I know they have a wonderful father and mother, and that they are blessed to have you guys as parents and leading them. As in Proverbs says, lead a child in the way they should go, and they'll always come back to that. Now I'm making it look like I'm sitting out front of the new field house at Mars Hill. I'm so jealous, man. When I played there, we didn't have that AstroTurf. We didn't have that nice field house. We used to call it the Astro Dirt. And
That's right.
Yeah, something I failed to mention, Coach Barnett's been coaching there this 34 years. You're the assistant head coach and defensive coordinator now, but am I right? You've been there 34 years.
Yeah, it's right. Getting ready to just turn into my 34th year.
Wow,
yeah.
that just speaks to for a coach to be at that place that long and have that type of success just speaks volumes to your character, Coach. You know me, I do a little research. Now, do you still have the school record for interceptions in a season at Mars Hill as a
No,
player?
I don't think that I do. I think there's a young man that, um, Maurice Jackson, I think he holds that record now. I think he ended up with 9.
You had 8.
Yeah, I had 8, but he ended up with 9.
Well, I
And we
think
worked real hard to get him 9. I was real excited about him getting 9 that day. It was a special day.
now I was a receiver at Mars Hill, so every now and then I'd see you get really mad, and all of a sudden you'd see defensive backs backpedaling up into the woods. Now, is that something that helped that kid break your record? I mean, did you lighten up a little bit, or are you still getting mad sometimes and making them backpedal? We thought they were backpedaling up Bailey Mountain.
Well, the problem now is I can't get close enough to the woods to get him to the woods. So I'm kind of limited as far as where I sometimes I want to take them to the creek and baptize them, I believe. But right now I just can't get to the woods, but we still work them extremely hard. We
Oh,
still work.
I would expect nothing less. I remember every day in one-on-one, I'd get in a fight with a kid named David Wynn from Brevard. I love him to death, but how many times you got mad at me for, we get tangled up and squabbling a little bit. So I really do miss that, and I loved every minute. I would go back to Mars Hill 100 times over. Just what a wonderful place. Now you played at Madison High School, and of course I went to Hendersonville. So were there any rivals you had at Hendersonville that you look forward to playing against in football and basketball and things like that, Coach, when you were in high school?
Well, Hendersonville was always a rival for me, because the athletes, I mean, they really pull at you. Jeff Roper, I cannot ever remember the fact of him trying to intimidate me. I remember that all the time. And he ended up being my college roommate at Mars Hill, but he tried to intimidate me every time we played him. And then, of course, Billy Newbern was a great running back. I mean, that cat could carry the pigskin like no other. And then I remember in baseball playing against a lot of really good players in baseball. And there's one guy that I think he ended up coming to Mars Hill playing football for a little while. It's a big black guy. I'm trying to remember his name. But he was a really good baseball player. And then in basketball, there was just so many players in basketball. Good gracious. But it was always a battle. It was always a battle.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That's fun stuff. And Jeff Roper's a really good friend of mine, and was on a coaching staff with me at Hendersonville for a while. But yeah, that's just great names. And now, did you get a chance to maybe play in the NFL a little bit after you left Mars Hill?
Well, I tried out with a couple of teams, and my plan. I'm glad that my plan B was really an exceptional plan, because I really, I flew up to New England. I was at the Redskins for a little while. I talked to the Cowboys, but really none of that really materialized any of that. And obviously that wasn't God's plan for me. But to be in education and how hard that I really wanted to be a coach and a teacher was obviously what God's plan was for me.
Oh yeah, and that kind of gets into this next question is, what got you into coaching? It sounds like you always had a plan for that, but what do you think was the main thing that got you into coaching?
Well, I just think coaches in themselves. Coaches have always had an influence in my life. And BJ, to be honest with you, what a lot of people don't understand about me is that I have been blessed by the amazing people that God has put in my life. I mean, from my parents to coaches to my 5 brothers that were all older than me. He has put some amazing people in my life that's really carried me. And I'm amazed that in reference to coaches that I've had so many exceptional coaches. And most of those coaches were godly men, and they really cared for me, and they wanted the very best for me, and they really pulled at my inner heart just to play and to give all that I had. And I just had so much passion to want to be a coach and a teacher. And there's so many teachers. I've had so many female teachers in elementary school that really took a liking to me. and really pushed me to do well academically. So I'm telling you, everywhere I've turned, I've had some great, amazing person, from my grandmother to my eighth grade teacher to my elementary school coaches, that just carried me from, it seems like, from one stage of life to the next stage of
Yeah, you sound a lot like me. I mean, I got into it basically because of my dad, but just from a family of educators, and I was the youngest of four, so we a lot in common there that I didn't even know, um, Coach. So I appreciate that. Now, I've always heard your name when I was coaching. You'd hear about all these jobs opening up, and your name always seemed to come up all the time as a candidate for this head job or this college or that or this high school. And 34 years at Mars Hill, Coach. Why not some other opportunity? Why 34 years at Mars Hill?
Well, I asked God that many times, and to the point where I had so many opportunities, and it seems like every interview that I went on, that it was gonna be, that was gonna be it, and God simply closed the door on all of those opportunities, and even either to the point to where He made me realize that that wasn't the place, or it fell through because of just something simple, or either something big as well. But he just simply, I guess, wanted me to understand that no matter where He had me, that all I needed to be aware of was that my connection with Him was all that mattered. Because I asked Him so many times, I said, God, I don't know if I can make enough at Mars Hill to support my family. Then the next thing I know, there would be an increase. Or I would think that, I don't know if the school is going to really uphold, or we're going to be successful. And the next thing I know, we're winning the SAC championship. And then I'm looking around, I'm thinking, well, the facilities, how are we going to, and next thing I know, there's a new field house, or there's a new field, or there's a new press box, or there's a new this. So I'm telling you, every single time when something came up, God just provided, and He just showed me. He just said, hey, I'm God. I can do whatever I want, and I can bless you however I need to bless you. But I need you in this place where you are right now. So I'm telling you, I've done some things here that I never would have imagined that I would ever thought about doing. But because He kept me here, He opened doors for me to do these things. So all I've got to do is step in them and just keep trusting Him.
Wow, that's so hard for a lot of people to wrap their brain around it. But you are a testament to, if you put God first in your life and seek Him first and ask, I mean, He'll lead you in the right way. And I was a lot similar, Coach. I stayed at the same school
Right.
25 as a coach before I got into administration, and that's a whole nother story. I'll argue with God on that, but it turned out all right. When I was at that elementary school after that first day, and a couple of kids went wild on me, I came home. I said, Amy, God messed this one up, and argued, but he didn't. He knew exactly what he was doing, and so a lot of people might not even know this, Coach. You recently were elected to the school board there in Madison County.
Yes.
What compelled you to take a position on the school board?
Well, everybody thought, number one, I was crazy. And there for a second, I thought I'd gone crazy myself. We had a guy that had wanted to be a county commissioner. So he gave up his seat on the school board, and he made the suggestion that I would take his seat his last 2 years. So they called me, the superintendent and everybody, and they made the suggestion that I would just take his seat. Well, I didn't want to do that, to be honest with you. And they said, well, they know I'm a praying man. I'm about Jesus. They said, well, you go on home and pray about it. And just let us know, Monday, Tuesday. So I went home and I said, Lord, I remember saying this. I said, I'm a football coach, God. I don't have time enough to do what I'm doing now, it seems like, in all these different, I'm on the housing committee, and I'm volunteering for the food bank, and I'm volunteering at the rescue mission in Asheville, and I'm preaching here, and I'm doing a life group here with my wife, and I've worked with FCA, and I'm doing some other things. And I said, I just cannot. And football, we practice all the time, and the next thing I know, we're practicing on our day off is on Monday. So we meet on the school board is on Monday nights, the last of the month. So that opened up. And then every door that I said that couldn't be opened up, he opened them up. And I walked in and I didn't have any choice because he did what only God could do. So I got involved and took the rest of his 2 years, and the people that he surrounded me with were just, I looked around, they're absolutely amazing. The superintendent and I mean, everything clicked. And the next thing I know, they're asking me to run, and I'm thinking, well, I got to pray about it. And they said, well, go ahead. And the next thing I know, I'm praying about running, and I'm running, and I run unopposed. There's nobody that runs against me. So every door I've been there to I've not missed one meeting in 3 years. Every door has opened for me to be at every work session, every school board meeting, every function. I've been at every single one of them. And I'm telling you, you know, people call me and ask me different things. And the wonderful thing about it is they know that I stand for Jesus Christ. And they're not gonna, they normally don't ask me crazy things because they know that I'm not about crazy things, and I'm not even gonna consider it. So I don't get a lot of just crazy things that a normal person would get in reference to asking to do this or favor for this and that, because I'm not gonna go against my relationship with Jesus Christ. That's first and foremost. And then everybody knows that on the board, all of my colleagues, and that they're upstanding people as well. So again, there's God putting me in a position where he's surrounding me with great people again. Amazing.
Yeah, it's funny how it just works out. You know, my wife taught me that when we first got married about tithing, and it looked like we weren't going to be able to pay the bill. She said, no, this first check is going to the church we were going to. And it's funny, like this one wasn't quite as, it worked out. We had money left over. But if you looked at it just from a human standpoint, we were in the hole. But man, about the third month, I would go to her and be like, honey, have you written that check to the church yet? You know, God, people, we can't fathom what he's thinking, but that's an awesome story too. And thank you for serving in that capacity in that county. All right. An NCAA coach for the last 34 years. What's a win for Coach Kevin Barnette? What's a win?
Well, a win for me is to see a young man's life changed, you know, and I like to win. I like winning on the scoreboard, but nothing replaces the light coming on and them seeing who they are in Jesus Christ. That's a gift for me. And it gives me so much joy and so much excitement and so much motivation. I mean, we had Randy Shepard and Jamie Johnson over last Friday, and they shared with their kids. We had 31 kids saved. And it seems like every year we have devotions and we have different pastors and people coming, and I'm do some of the devotions, but we have kids saved all the time. And under the conditions of this world and what's going on in this world, it's amazing how powerful and how amazing God's love and peace and deliverance and joy and his redemptive work is in the lives of people right now. It still amazes me about how great he is. Yeah. So that's a win for me. It's without a shadow of a doubt, that's a win.
And that's awesome. And when I first started out when I was 22 years old, you know, a win for me, like you said, is like how many wins physically on the scoreboard you have. And as I matured and learned, it took on a whole, exactly what you just said. And Jamie and Randy are awesome. I mean, they'll go anywhere, anytime, and serve anyone. And I mean, they're just have a servant's heart. So I love those two guys. And all right, what are some of your if you had to narrow it down, what's your greatest memory as a coach? Your greatest coaching memory? I mean, that's 34 years.
Well, I guess coming back to Mars Hill was really an exciting time for me. You know, because that was not the plan. That was not my plan. My plan was just to keep just trying to excel. And my ideas were to get away from Mars Hill. And when Felton Stevens called me about the job opportunity, I was at Forest Hills High School at the time coaching. I was the defensive coordinator. And I was so excited to know that I would get an opportunity to come back to Mars Hill, because I'd been away for about 2 years. So, and then within a year becoming the defensive coordinator, and I'm telling you, coaching people at that level and at this level it's pretty amazing. It's always has been an amazing feeling for me. And then, working in FCA and working with some of the guys that I worked with at Gardner Webb for about 20 straight years. I mean, Phil Jones and all of those guys, Steve McNamara, was just the relationships that I made in during that span of time was I still have bonds with those people. And I mean, it's just like it's just like it happened yesterday. And I'm amazed by that time, that time frame and those relationships. And that was really an amazing part of my life. And being in ministry, I've been in ministry now for outside of FCA, but just normal church ministry for probably the last 20 years. I'm an ordained minister, and just simply having the opportunity to go and preach and do weddings and do premarital counseling. I have so much passion to do that, and I've got a wedding I'm doing in about 2 weeks, and and then the sad part, a lot of times, but the dignity part of doing funerals. I've done a lot of funerals, especially here lately. And a year and a half ago, I buried my grandfather and my father and my brother within a month, and that was really difficult. But at the same time, I know that it was something that I had to do, and it was pivotal for me to do it because of there's a lot of people got saved in my family in the midst of all of that happening. It was one of the hardest times of my life. But when God calls you to do something, there's no sorrow. There's never any sorrow in it, even if it's to that extent. He still finds measures to give you joy in the midst of all of that. So I've been a blessed man, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, you're one of my heroes. And I mean, all those irons that you've talked about, you got in the fire, and they all work out because of God. I mean, if you list everything you're doing on paper, it shouldn't work out, but it does. And it's just a testimony. Coach, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about, obviously this is FCA Coach's Corner. I remember going to FCA meetings in the old Blue Lounge when I was at Mars Hill. And even back then, going into those meetings, it made an impact on me. But what could you speak to the impact that FCA has had on your career? Maybe you personally some things, share some things about FCA that's had an impact on you.
Well, first of all, it's seeing the FCA leaders that I've dealt with for probably 20 plus years. And I would say there's at least 20 of those leaders that are ministers or pastors right now. And just having our leadership meetings were exceptional in themselves. And I'm amazed that God would allow me to be in a position to where that I could disciple young men and young women to the point to where they would become ministers or become pastors. And knowing the fact that I had people to disciple me and how the impact that was of having them to disciple me. And one of the things that I constantly remember, and especially FCA at Gardner Webb, was at the earlier years, my kids were really, really young. And I remember taking them for the first time. They're 1, 2 years old. My daughter wasn't even born, and my wife, we'd only been married for a couple of years. And I encouraged them to come to FCA camp. and she was in the leadership part with the females, and I was with the males. And I remember being up late at night. The kids weren't used to staying away from home, and they'd stayed up late, and I was really sleepy. I was tired, and I was thinking. I went into the coaches' meeting, and I was drinking coffee, trying to stay awake because I kept falling asleep. And I was like, man, I don't want to embarrass myself in here. And the speaker was talking about how important it was that we were just not temperature gauges, but that we were thermostats, that we changed the whole atmosphere of a room. And I was trying to keep awake, and it was a great talk. It was really, really fulfilling. And he kept showing pictures on the screen, and he showed Tony Dungy. And I remember being at the back and just trying to hold my head up because I had not gotten very much sleep. And the next thing I know, I look up, and there's about 50 coaches in there, and my picture comes up on the screen. And I'm thinking, it still affects me to this day. To know that I have influenced, but my influence is only through Jesus Christ. And that's an amazing influence. That I was at a point in my life, I was just trying to make it. And I was just trying to do the best I could and be a father and a husband. But even at that level, God gave me influence, and he gives us influence. And I'll never forget that moment of knowing that he is that big, he is that great, and he is that powerful. And that we just, in a submitted state, anything can happen. Everything is possible. And lives can be changed instantly. So that was a very impactful time in my life.
Thank you for sharing that, because I can speak personally about this. I mean, I have some coaching heroes, and you're one of them, Coach. I mean, I was a receiver and wasn't even playing in your position, but the influence you had on me was just so incredible to want to do things the right way. I wanted to emulate what Coach Barnette does. And many times my coaching career, I'd call you, Coach, I need a drill. Coach, I need this. Coach, and you're right. And Tony Dungy is my hero, and Jim Caldwell, and Lovie Smith, and Joe Gibbs, and Kevin Barnett, and Felton Stevens, and the list goes on and on. But
yeah.
Coach, you are just that. And anybody watching this, Coach Barnett is the real deal. He really is, and what you see is what you get, and he's consistent. And I was an average to below average player at Mars Hill, and he treated me the same as a first team All-American. And forever grateful for that, Coach. I really am, and appreciate the impact you've had, and are still having, and are going to have in the future. That leads me into this. So if a player, and I've already kind of answered this for myself, but what do you hope kids say 10, 15 years down the road after they've played for you and been under your leadership? What would you hope they say about it?
I know without a shadow of a doubt that I would want them to say that they got an idea of who Jesus was. And because that's the most important thing. That's the thing that changed. He changes lives. I mean, he can get you, if you're the lowest of the lowest, and bring you to the highest of the highest. And if I can, at some point, just surrender myself even the more to where they see Jesus, then I know that there's been a huge impact that's occurred in their lives.
Wow, that's a great answer. I mean, and that's what we're on this earth for. And yeah, Coach, I mean, I heard somebody say one time, hey, if you were on trial for being a Christian, would they have enough evidence to convict you? I mean, Coach, if that's the case, man, you would have 18 life sentences, man, because the fruit is there, the impact is there, and coaches are lucky to coach with you, and players are lucky to play for you. And I was just talking to serve North Henderson High School, and Coach Jim Beatty's out there, and he speaks so highly of you. And then Jeremy Hughes is a young coach out there, and he just speaks so highly of you. And it goes on and on. All these coaches now in Western North Carolina that you have impacted personally. So your coaching tree and your Christian coaching tree is unbelievable in the mountains. Coach, I always like to close out with this right here. We got a lot of kids that might be watching this, or their parents, and they got aspirations of playing college ball or this or that, or work ethic, those type of things. Give some advice before we get out of here. Give a little bit of advice to players and parents.
Well, probably the first thing that kind of dawns on my mind is that as a player and as a son or a daughter, listen to your parents. I mean, they've got your best interests at hand. I mean, they're not trying to throw you under the bus. They know exactly what your needs are. And parents, don't give up on them. I know a lot of times in this era that we're living in that, that we can get sidetracked so easily. I just encourage you just to stay with them and keep giving them Jesus. And because he gets in. I think a lot of times we think that, it's a lost cause, but he is never a lost cause. He always wins. He always stops them on fourth down. He always gets an inch when he needs an inch. He always scores. He always wins in every situation, in every circumstance. And a lot of times the news and people create a negative atmosphere, and run from the negative atmosphere. Negative talk, don't take the time to take any of that in, because all it does is turn you in a negative direction. And really, we got way too much to do to be hanging around negative stuff. And we got so much joy to experience through Jesus to stay short of him. So just stay connected to him every way possible you can. And he will take you exactly where you need to go and where you need to be. I'm living proof of it.
Hey, amen to that. I am too. I just think back on my life and how things worked out, and I would question it, man. He knows what he's doing. Coach Barnett's right. Got the creator of the universe, DNA is pumping through our blood. He knows what he's doing. And
yes.
Coach, that's great advice. If you don't mind, I'll pray us out, and then if you got anything else you'd like to say at the end, and then we'll end this. But wow, it's been a privilege for me to get to interview one of my personal heroes. And I'll pray real quick. Dear Lord, just thank you for what Coach said means at Mars Hill University on that football field, dear Lord. What a special man Coach Barnette is for that whole community and that university, dear Lord. And I just pray that God would watch over and be with that community and that program. And dear Lord, just be with Coach Barnette as he continues to impact young people, dear Lord. And the fruits of the evidence of his impact in Western North Carolina and beyond are incredible, as you can just about go to any school, dear Lord, and you find someone from his tree, dear Lord, coaching and impacting young people. In Jesus Christ's name I pray, amen. Coach Barnette, man, thank you so much for coming in here, Coach. Anything before we close out?
Well, I just want to say thank you, BJ. And people see your fruit. Your tree is dropping some amazing fruit. So just keep on being BJ. God bless you. I love you. And just keep on running the race.
Love you, Coach.
All right.